Since the chair, vice chair were unable to attend today, I'll be acting as today's chair. So thank you in advance for your patience and forgiveness, since it's been a while since I've done this. Today we'll, I suppose, call it Throwback Thursday. Quorum is present. The meeting of MAG Public Safety Answering Point Managers Group is called to order. A call to the audience. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour prior to the posted start time for the meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, or that are on the agenda for discussion, not for action. MAG staff, have we received any public comments? If so, please read them at this time. I think you're on mute, Liz.
We have no comment requests at this time.
Okay, very good. So approval of the May 13th, 2021 PSAP Manager Group meeting minutes. On the our next item is the approval of these meeting minutes. Does any member of the PSAP Managers Group have questions or comments on the meeting minutes? If none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Michelle Karen Sutherland, I'll make a motion to approve.
Loretta Hagelock, second.
Okay, Karen from Scottsdale and Loretta from Glendale for the second. Is there any discussion of this motion? Okay, MAG staff, would you please take a roll call vote?
Yes. Apache Junction PD.
Present.
Are you voting to support the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay. Avondale PD.
Aye.
Buckeye PD.
Aye.
Chandler PD.
Aye.
Fort McDowell PD. Gilbert PD.
Aye.
Glendale PD.
Aye.
Goodyear PD.
Aye.
MCSO. MCSO. Mesa PD. Mesa PD. Paradise Valley PD.
Aye.
Peoria PD. Phoenix PD.
Aye.
Salt River PD.
Aye.
Scottsdale PD.
Aye.
Surprise PD.
Aye.
Tempe PD.
Aye.
Tolleson PD. Wickenburg PD.
Aye.
We have completed the count. Michelle.
Great. Next agenda item is the administrator report. The 911 administrator will provide a report to the PSAP managers on activities and programs managed by Maricopa Region 911. Liz Graber, the 911 administrator, will provide this report.
Thank you, Michelle. So I apologize. I usually have a screenshot of this. So if there's something on here that I'm reporting that you want the numbers on, I'd be happy to email them to you. We are working on closing the fiscal year 2021 grant as we clean up the outstanding invoices from July. And then we have kicked off the fiscal year 2022 grant. And we're doing purchases off of that. And then we prepared, as you see in your agenda, the fiscal year 2023 grant. So this is that wonderful time of the year where three budget processes all layer in at once. And so it's been kind of busy in our office getting those taken care of. For our SENS activations, we have 90 year to date. Last year was our record year, and we are in par with that. We're trending the same. So it looks like we're using our reverse 911 system. A lot of agencies are. Text to 911. We averaged the last 6 months of 735 text sessions a month for the region. Our year to date is 5,150. And just to give you an idea of how the growth this time last year, the total was 3,927. So you can see it's a significant jump from last year on how many text messages we're receiving. And then another point on real-time text is real-time text is agencies within Texas, northern Texas, are dipping their toe in the water and starting it. We have good allies in North Central Texas COG, and they have very similar to us. They have multiple PSAPs within their region that they work on behalf of. And they are, from a NINA presentation that was done, doing a, bringing on their carriers for real-time text, but they're only doing it one at a time because it's very cumbersome. And what's different than MR911 in North Central Texas is they have a hefty budget where they can do a lot of more things that afford them. So we're glad that they're taking the lead on this and are on the bleeding edge, so we can see how what they had to go through, so we can do lessons learned when it's our turn. Remember, we have it in our strategic plan to do real-time text. That's not anything that Maricopa Region is going to miss out on. I know that there's some questions out there whether or not we're going to do real-time text, but we have a laundry list of things that we have to get in place. And the most important thing, and Mike Benjamin will talk about this a little bit, is our core NG 911 core services that was just awarded in the RFP. So, but I wanted to make sure that everybody was really clear that real-time text will come to the region, which it's just waiting for Texas to be the beta site to see how it goes and what it's going to take for us to do it. Is it going to cost additional monies that the state will need to provide, or what will all be involved in? And North Central Texas will be able to tell us how complicated it was. And so we're looking to hear their report. So we went over that. I have no legislation things to report on at this time. The legislature's down, but I know that the state is looking at increasing the annual funds. I have not gotten a report from them. If they are on the line later, maybe we can ask them on what progress they've made on increasing the monthly tax or the monthly excise tax for 911. So those are my reports in a nutshell. Is there any questions for me? All right, Michelle.
The one thing I'll add on that real-time text, Jim Stillwell, MCSO, and I attended that real-time text at NINA, and it was very fascinating. And I know we had done some research in the emerging technologies group, and then I had done some as well. And it is absolutely fascinating. What I didn't know about real-time text was that I did know that you could see someone texting every letter and that you could see them delete it. What I didn't know is that you can hear the environmental noise while they're texting. So that was the piece that I didn't quite get out of that puzzle. So for example, in a domestic violence situation, you can see maybe somebody deleting text and then maybe hearing some fighting in the background. The other thing that I didn't know until this presentation at NINA was the complexity of the technology. And so, for someone like me that's like a new toy. I want it. I was a little bit cautious when I saw all the hoops that North Central Texas had to go through in getting that. And so I did maybe come back after that and ask Liz some questions on, the state EZNet versus the Maricopa region EZNet. Is there a difference in functionality between the two EZNets, and then what it would require on ours versus Texas? The complexity is there for sure. So definitely a good tool for some use cases that I can definitely see, but that would be definitely a lift for our region. Next agenda item, MAG fiscal year 23 PSAP annual element funding request and fiscal year 2023 to 2028 equipment program. Liz Graber will provide this information as well.
Usually we have a working group, a budget working group, but with changes in PSAPs and retirements and members moving on to different careers, we kind of lost a little bit of our budget working group. So I prepared this like I have in the past and sent it out directly. But hopefully we'll get our budget working group back organized with some new members, and we'll be able to continue on, but it won't stop the budget. We keep it going. So you should have received in your packet all the justification that comes with the requests that we put out, and along with our 6-year forecast, and then the fiscal 2023 budget, and then all the supporting documentation that was sent for the request. So I want to start, if we can go ahead and look at this next slide. There we go. So this is fiscal year 2023's budget. And if you'll notice that on the bottom left column, it gives the totals. And I apologize, that's a typo. I should say fiscal 2023 totals. But it's up to $12,887,932. The reason that there's that leap is Phoenix PD is coming up due for an upgrade, and Luke Air Force Base. So normally our upgrade budgets run anywhere in the ballpark of 1.5 million to 2.5 million in our costs for that. Phoenix PD, because of their size and their complexity, is we ballpark it at $3.5 million. So it's a significant leap. We are on contact with the state to talk about funding for that, if there's some additional funds that we can use to help cover that cost, or is it all going to come out of excise tax? That's what we're working on, because that might help the state funds not take such a huge hit, but fingers crossed that we will be able to do that. But that's why you see a significant from the 10 million that we had for fiscal year 2022. In the budget, we have if you look at the bottom there, we have the 911 CPE projects. So we have Luke Air Force Base. They are having, they're due for an upgrade. Phoenix PD, and then our projects per field. So our total for our projects is 3.9 million approximately. Then we have NG 911 products. This is the equipment that we buy and has to be replaced as part of the process. So Corville is one of the platforms that they use for networking, and pan traps are also, I believe those are firewalls, but don't quote me on that. And then VMware, we have we have a significant amount of stuff that's virtual, and that's VMware's the licensing and the components that we need to continue that on. So those will need to be replaced, and those projects are 384,000 approximately. And then the last on the bottom are all the PSAP requests, and we got quite a few of them this year. Gilbert PD is asking for additional 5 positions. They're also asking for a logging recorder reimbursement. Goodyear is looking at asking for 4 additional positions. And Mesa PD is asking for 3 additional positions. And then Scottsdale is looking for a logging recorder reimbursement. So with the totals of that, it comes to $800,000 in our budget. And that also added to why our price is so much higher, is because there were a lot more requests for additional positions. What are we looking at? 12 additional positions in the state. And so that is broken out. You can see that we have wireline, wireless, and NG 911. The state has us do that so they can track what's costing, where our monies are going to. And so our total is $12,887,932. So if Michelle, if you'd like to discuss this or vote on it.
Yeah, so, we haven't, with COVID and everything being shut down, we haven't really had a chance to, kind of be together as managers. So I think we're kind of out of the loop. So one of the things I'm curious about is, can we chat through what each of these agencies are experiencing and kind of the justifications, so we kind of know what's going on in each of these PSAPs for the requests?
So this is what this time is for. You can discuss any any aspect of the budget, and including the PSAP requests or anything that I have on there. This is the time we can discuss it, and whether it's for me or the PSAPs.
So do we have these agencies on the line that are up to sharing kind of what you guys got going on in your centers for the additional positions?
That'd be Gilbert, Mesa, and Goodyear.
This is Kim with Gilbert. I'll share. So we are actually in the process of doing a major expansion of our dispatch center. We're currently in a 4,000 square foot space with originally 12 consoles, and then we did a mini remodel and added 3 consoles. So we've got 15 in our current 4,000 square foot space all squeezed in. So we got approved to use some CARES Act to expand and take over basically almost the east wing of the 2nd floor. So that'll bring us from 4,000 to 10,000 square feet, allowing us to actually use the more current consoles that give us more space between the dispatchers. And then we are also, right now, we are on 1 main channel and 1 info channel, whereas we should be at 2 main channels and possibly 2 info channels so we don't reduce the radio transmissions on the info channel. So we've got to add positions in order to accommodate the staffing that will need to be on duty in order to work 2 main channels, info channel, relief, and hot channels, and then the call takers as well. The logging recorder piece of it is tied into the expansion because when we go from 15 to 20, we're going to have to upgrade our current recorder. And it should have been upgraded about 2 years ago, but we kind of just extended the warranty and carried out knowing that we were doing an expansion soon. Any other questions? I think that's a quick high level overview of what we're doing. And our target cutover is summer of 2023.
Anybody have any questions for Kim? It's nice that you have a little bit of time to make some of those plans.
A little bit.
Yeah, so you'll have 20 consoles in your center?
Our initial, we haven't gone to design yet. We're hoping to go to design in October, but we're looking at building out 20 consoles with 4 placeholders for future growth, because this expansion should take us out to 2030 if we do it right.
Does the call volume, 911 call volume, match the trend of answering? or is it you're wanting more positions for dispatchers, 911 positions for dispatchers?
So it's both because they're cross-trained. So you've got the dispatchers on that will be call takers as well as radio dispatchers. So we need the seating in order to have the staffing in order to support both. Our 911 call volume has gone up as well. The town has been building out like crazy, especially to the south.
And I believe, Kim, you included that in the packet, your call volume
I
over
did,
the last 3 years.
Yes,
So just to make sure that we, Gilbert had 10 positions originally when they put a moratorium on adding positions.
correct,
And then Gilbert purchased 2 of them, wasn't it?
correct.
Back in the day. And when the state gave us approval for fiscal year 2020 to bring those unfunded positions in, Gilbert's 2 positions self-funded were at 12, and then you added 3 this year.
Correct.
And so those were self-funded, and now as of this fiscal year, those were, the state said that they would pay for them. So that puts you at 15.
Correct.
And then you're going to be adding an additional 5 for 20. So your call volume has jumped that much?
So, like I said, it's a combination of the call volume and having to have the bodies in order to facilitate answering the calls and dispatching those calls out to the officers. Right now, when I did a study, and this was only just 2 years ago, of our radio volume, working just one radio channel, one info channel, we were twice as high as our surrounding agencies of the same size, meaning one person was handling basically 2 main channels as another agency. So we've got to be able to get those calls out faster. And the way to do that is to have 2 main channels staffed.
Okay. Those were my questions for Gilbert.
Thank you.
So are you saying approximately, looks like a little over 200,000 calls, under 250 or 200,000 calls each year between the 911 and the admin?
In the packet?
Yeah.
Hang on, I have to pull it up. I've got too many tabs open. So for, all right, hang on. For fiscal year 21, our 911 volume was 69,710, and then admin volume was 149,125.
I'm sorry, Kim, what was your 911?
69,710.
All right. I show 71,000, so I'll give you a couple thousand beyond that. 71,864.
Well, I'm going off are you going off the report or?
I'm going
Let me
off
make sure.
the 911 reports, yeah. I have to do 911 reports to turn into the state, the call volumes. And so for Gilbert, I show for calendar year 20, 71,864, and that is up by 1,000 or so from 2019. It was 70,469. So we had a little bit of a bump in from 19 to 20.
Well, I'll take
Liz,
your
when you
numbers. I'll attribute that to MIS's wonderful discrepancies.
There you go.
So Liz, do you submit the numbers for the full year from January to December, or if she's doing her fiscal year?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am doing the calendar year. That's what the format they request them in is for the calendar year. What was the call volume?
Okay, that makes a difference, yeah.
Yep, I didn't catch that. And Michelle, we also have, let's see, I believe Shauna from Goodyear's on the line. And I don't know if Kristen from Mesa came on, but Shauna's here.
Hi, this is Shauna. I'm here. So I've requested 4 positions this year. The reasoning behind that is twofold. Number one, we are under positioned currently. On a day-to-day basis, we pretty much fill all the existing consoles. We have 8. And our call volumes and our activity levels have gone up enough that justifies that staffing. And we are growing exponentially. We're adding 2 full squads of officers this year, which is increasing due to our population growing so rapidly. And we anticipating adding 6 more squads in the next 2 years. We're going to add 2 new substations. Currently, we run off of 1 main radio channel. That is going to change. We're adding a full-time info channel, and the plan is within the next 2 years to split the radio into north and south. So we'll need 2 additional full-time dispatch positions, which we are the same as Kim's Center in that everyone is cross-trained. Everyone has radio and phones at their positions. So we're looking at just exponential growth. We're behind the 8 ball for now. So this 4 is to catch up and get where we need to be for this year. And then we're looking at just growth in the future.
So on Goodyear's, they were also similar to Gilbert. They were at 5 and they added 3. They added 3 positions which were unfunded until the fiscal year 2020 mandate, and we brought them in those 3 positions. So they are at 8 currently. And then you have, so you're asking for an additional 4, which will put you at 12, and your call volumes for 911, and I'm doing calendar year, not fiscal year. Last year, Goodyear for 2020, it was 39,582, and that's up a little bit from the year before, 35,583. So you're mostly focused, Shauna, on getting dispatch positions?
They're
for
both.
radios?
They're actually both. It affects the fact that we need dispatch positions. We have phones at those also, but our call volumes are increasing. We anticipate a little bit more of an increase. We're looking at about 15% a year right now, but our monthly increases are a little higher than that.
So, and we'll go over the 6-year after we vote on this for fiscal year, but we'll go on the expansion. But in the 6-year, you have listed additional positions every year beyond the 4. So 2 in 24, 2 in 25, 1 in 26, 1 in 27, and 1 in 28.
Right. We're looking at the population of Goodyear more than doubling in that time.
Sean, are they building out in that south area where Stray Mountain Ranch? I think I saw houses being built further out, so that area I know is actually Goodyear.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we go even further south than that. Not a lot of build out there yet, but they're talking about putting the freeway through the next 5 years, and that will build it a little further. But yes, the Stray Mountain Ranch is growing quickly.
Right.
Well, that's the
So
reason
how many
behind
positions?
splitting it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so how many positions would that be total requested over the course of those 6 years?
The total is 11 over that whole time frame.
That would put you at a total of 11 or 11 requested?
11 requested.
For a total of 19?
19, yes.
And you said Mesa is not on the line?
Kristen, I think Mesa was going to get Kristen Molander.
Molander?
Yeah.
Kristen, are you on the line?
I can give you the information on.
Okay.
Okay, hang on, let me get that up for you. Okay, so Mesa it's like I'm giving the history of all your positions. Mesa had 30 positions, and then when Mesa Fire became an independent PSAP, they took the 4 that fell under Mesa's with them. So that took Mesa down to 26. They were granted, they asked for 6 positions last year, and the state didn't fund all of them, only funded 3 of them. And so they'll be growing up to 29 positions. Now it appears that Base is asking for the other 3 positions that the state wouldn't fund for Mesa. They have on their call volume, real quick, in the year 2020, they had a total of 242,250, and that's a little less than what they took in 2020. In 2019, that was 244,548. So they had a wee bit of a drop on that. So that's Mesa's info.
So I know that there was a team working on a formula, and then I know the state had a formula too. So do we have a status on that, on where we are with creating a formula for, the...
Well, Michelle, this is Karen. I can probably speak to that in Christine's absence. I was the one who created the formula, and it seems like overall it's working. I think what we really need is for the managers to play with the numbers and see what it means to them and give us some feedback on it. And unfortunately, it's a formula that requires quite a bit of input of the MIS numbers in order to, do the math on it. It's not something that's simple like some of the other formulas that just take how many bodies you have, how many calls you have. This actually breaks it down hour by hour. When we ran it, it came up to be a pretty good staffing model. It seemed to match what our needs were, pretty much on par. And I can explain it in depth. I don't know if you want me to do that right now, or if there'd be some time that I just have personal conversations as the managers want to try it out. I can do whatever works.
Well, I know you sent me one that I need to sit down and take some time to really dig into it. But just as I listen to these things, I think one thing that would be super helpful for me, and I wonder if it would be helpful for others, is as I listen, the ratios here are seemingly worth looking at from a regional perspective, I guess I would say, is because if we are going to start adding these positions like this, I think if we looked at it holistically, we're going to see that it's disproportionate if we do it as we're doing it like this. So I think what's that?
I have to agree. We
Yes.
have to have something that spells it out for us so that we meet the needs based on some sort of a formula.
Yes. So as approved here, I think if we are going to try and equalize what we're seeing, I think we're going to be constantly trying to catch up across the region, which is going to have an impact on the budget. It's going to have an impact on service levels. And we will never catch up because we're not consistent across the board. So what I think maybe I would like to see from a regional perspective is each agency, how many consoles they currently have, how many 911 calls they have, how many total call volume they have, how many radio channels they run 24/7, how many are cross-trained, and just do a complete overhaul just from a high level view of what people are doing, because I think that's a view. And then, I mean, there's still some things on how we staff that are, going to be one-offs and things like that. But I think if we look at it from a high level, here what I'm seeing is there's, small, I mean, we're all different sizes. We serve different communities with different needs, with different funding capabilities. And, it's, I think we're going to come across some long-term things here where you have smaller agencies with consoles that are have 1.5 times the number of consoles as agencies that have double the call volume.
I agree.
And then we're going to be like trying to catch up. And if that's the funding model, then we have a service level model issue. And it's just going to be a slippery slope. So until we can establish what the process and the funding approval model is, we're just going to be creating problems for ourselves. One other thing, and I know I'm using a lot of airtime here, when we were looking at a consolidation recently, we had a consultant come in and he had a very interesting thing that I'd not seen before. I may be the last one to know about this. So he had some kind of, I think he called it an algorithm, which is a fancy word, that said, here's your call volume, and then you're like 40% likely to roll over to your hot channel, 20% likely for those calls to roll over to your info channel, and then 5% likely to roll over to your supervisors. So for those dual roles, he had some kind of formula for that, and he had it broken down by hour. So I don't know if that's worthwhile looking into for those dual positions that we're talking about, needing a console for a radio position and a phone position, but it might be worthwhile.
I think if I can take up a little more airtime myself on this, when I put together the formula, it was mostly based on the staffing more than the actual workstations. So I came up with what I think is a pretty decent formula to manage the goals that we have, the answering 95% of the calls within 20 seconds, 90% within 15 seconds, based on not the average amount of calls, because then 50% of the times we'd miss that, but a little bit higher than average. But what I think we have to come up with in this region is some sort of governance on, a lot of us use all of our positions are dual. And so that's something that we need to consider. We need to consider training positions, which may not count into staffing, but we still have to put a person at a position to manage that. And some sort of formula for positions that maybe are down for one reason or another and force you to move to another position. So those things have to be considered in addition to the actual formula that has been put out. And again, your larger agencies are probably going to need a little bit more of the positions that, although they may look like additional positions when we're looking at them from the staffing point of view, when you start talking about the fact that we need to train our new employees and we need to have a position to go to if something goes down on it, we just have to take all those things into account. I think I've got the staffing at a pretty good place that I would be happy to work with the managers and have them give feedback on that. And then the rest of it, I really think requires some more discussion.
I greatly appreciate it, Karen. I think, and coming from the point of where we're stuck and where we can actually expand, which we actually need to. So, and I know we have the call volume and the traffic. I mean, we're tracking 75 to 100 officers on each radio channel. So, I mean, I don't know what the volume is for other agencies on just one radio channel, and then just the call volume that's coming in. I know we're pretty high up there with the call volume, especially now with all the events starting, since everybody's feeling free and going to football games and tailgating and that. I'm sure we'll find out this weekend.
And Liz, also, so if we're adding 12 positions here, when we talk about service levels too, Viper 7, we'll talk about that in a minute too. That could be 3 basically PSAPs. So, what are we doing on that end to say we've added basically 3 PSAPs? What are we doing on service levels when we have just gone through Viper 7? We still have other maintenance issues across the region. And we have, actually, you just got approved for another team member, I think you said, right? Another tech. But what are we doing on that end too to say we expect the same service levels out of your team, but we've added 3 PSAPs basically?
And that's a good point. Mag, can you do the next slide? Go to the 4 to the 6 year. Thank you. So let me review this with you real quick. And I'm just going to focus on fiscal year 2023. Let me get a drink of water. So I know it's kind of cryptic, but this is the 6-year forecast. You can each look on your PSAP of when your upgrade is, it's a soft schedule. It could change depending on what's going on, funding, all of that. But basically, that's how we have it laid out. But look at fiscal year 2023. We would have to install the 12 workstations and upgrade Luke Air Force Base and the upgrade of Phoenix PD and the remodels of Gilbert, Scottsdale, and Tempe PD. And that's not counting the day-to-day maintenance that we have to do and the struggles we have with Viper 7, and along with our NG core services. So my guys are dedicated and they're hopping, but as we add more, like you said, Michelle, that's the kind of thing that we're up against. So my resources, we try to use them the best way that we can, but as you add on more and more positions, you need that support with the technician. I mean, we go through that as they add officers, right? They add officers and they need to add a dispatcher to go with it, to work the channel and the records clerk and all this stuff that goes with it. So it's just something to keep in mind when we're adding all additional positions, and that we are also adding more work for the technicians. And Maggie, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, can we come up with some kind of model while we're coming up with a model for this? Can we come up with some kind of model that says for every number of consoles that we add, we're adding another staff member to your team? Is that something that we could work with the state on or something, or make a recommendation?
Oh, absolutely. That would,
I don't know if anybody else has some ideas on that, but it just seems like as we add hardware or positions or whatever else, we need to add some support to it as well.
And I was going to say, Matt, can you take it back to the previous slide, back to the budget? There we go. So I think that we have some, there's been good discussion on that, and I thank you, Karen, for bringing that information. And I think that I know that our monies in the state haven't increased. And with the change to NG core services for all of us in the state, and the EZNet that the northern part of this Arizona is going to be joined, and all those factors, and not an increase yet of our funding, I don't know how much the state will be willing to fund. And that will be the other question is, so then if these don't become, if they're not approved for funding, then do they become self-funded positions? And that still affects my team. whether or not it's state funded or self-funded, we still feel that impact. Anyway, so Ms. Potts, we do still need to vote on the, if do a vote on the budget.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the MAG fiscal year 2023 PSAP annual element funding request and fiscal year 2023 to 2028 equipment program?
Michelle, this is Karen.
Was surprised.
Oh, go ahead, Demla.
Okay,
Surprise all motion.
Damla was surprised,
Karen will second.
and Karen from Scottsdale for the second. Is there discussion of the motion? I think we discussed that ad nauseam. And MAG staff, would you please take a roll call vote?
Yes. Patrick Junction, PD.
Aye.
Avondale, PD. Lydia with Avondale. Okay. Buckeye. Jim.
Aye.
Chandler.
Aye.
Fort McDowell. Gilbert, PD. Gilbert, PD. Glendale, PD.
Aye.
Goodyear, PD. Goodyear, PD.
Aye.
Luke Air Force Base. Oh, look, sorry. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, no problem.
You're still in our hearts. MCSO. Mesa, PD. Paradise Valley, PD.
Aye.
Peoria, PD.
Aye.
Is that you, Brittany?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Phoenix, PD. Ally.
Aye.
Marcy for Salt River.
Aye.
Scottsdale.
Aye.
Surprise.
Aye.
Tempe, PD.
Aye.
Tolleson, PD. And Wickenburg, PD.
Aye.
So it looks like the majority, it passed. Chairman Potts.
Very good. Next agenda is the governance working group. This is an ongoing discussion on governance needed on a regional level. Liz, were you going to speak on?
I can take that.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got the notes on that. Okay, there's 3 items here. One of them's already been covered pretty thoroughly by Karen, so I'll skip to the next one. And this one is the 911 call answering standard. This stuff can be seen, I believe it's the last page of the packet. Okay, so under the standard, the governance group reviewed a suggestion to include support of MR911 PSAP Manager Group to national answering standards. An informal survey was completed amongst the PSAP managers in the region. It was found that all responded did have a standard goal in line or stricter than NETA standard, which the state is in the process of adopting. So we drafted a governance to show that our goal was to, as a region, was to meet the NETA standards, which was sent out by Liz on 8/3. Rather than mandating a standard at each city at this time, the group determined the first step is to recommend each city support and implement these goals. So you'll see that verbiage in that first paragraph there. And it pretty much basically says that each agency will establish a standard and that standard will be based on NETA standards. So it's pretty clear, I think. With that in mind, I'd like to ask members for any feedback on the attached wording, if that works for you. Hello?
I'll give some input, Jim. I think that the PSAPs in our region strive to follow this already. This is just formalizing it, that we as a region acknowledge the NINA standards and that each PSAP will strive to follow those call answering times so that we're
and just-
officially bringing it in.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's actually the gist of the whole thing, because when this started, the original text, as you will recall, is when it came from the state, it was a little bit more authoritarian. It pretty much said, you will. And we, in discussion in the group, we decided this language is a little bit better. So that's kind of how this came to be. If you can recall, I think you would agree with that.
And just to reiterate to anyone that, and I think that another purpose for it, Jim, was just to ensure that to the outside world, they understood that as a region, we are not against the NINA standards. We want to follow the NINA standards and give the best customer service to anyone calling 911 when they're in our region. So just making it really clear that that is our stance on it by adding this to our policy manual.
Yeah. So anyway, so based on that, the notes that Christine left for me was that this would have to be voted on, from my understanding, is that we have to do here if it's agreeable to everybody.
And I believe we vote on the 2 additions, so we'll need to discuss the PSAP broadcast.
Okay, so that's point 1, the answering standard. The second one was the PSAP to PSAP emergency broadcast messaging. So as discussed this spring, the governance group reviewed the new process messaging system capabilities on the phone system. And it will be available shortly in all centers. Chandler had been testing this and had access to the system, and their procedures reviewed and take into account. That resulted in the verbiage you see under the latter part of that text page there. And basically what it does, if you look at it, I'm not going to read it to you, but it just basically assigns do's and don'ts for how to use it, and that their managers will designate supervisors or employees that are allowed to use it. And the main gist behind that whole thing was to make sure the system wasn't abused. So I think these bullet points pretty much cleared up. We agree that it was pretty much comprehensive. And so that's another thing step 1, we'd ask for feedback on that, and then maybe move to a vote if on both of these points, if so agreed.
And Jim, this is Chantel. I think we do have a slide with the text on it. So David, if you could move, there you go.
There it is. Yep, there you go.
Thank you.
Jim, this is Sean. I have a quick question.
Good.
On the PSAP to PSAP broadcast messages, is there any kind of a testing schedule or anything to make sure that it works? Like, so if I need to send a make busy message and I've never used it before, is there some way that we can test monthly or quarterly to make sure it's working each PSAP?
I'm going to have to tell you that is a technical operational piece. I don't have an answer to that. Our task was to determine how it was used. So on the technical side, the operations side, I do not know the answer to that. I imagine somebody online knows that.
So Shauna, Dave Eaton is going to talk about some training everybody will receive, and we can discuss that. That does make sense to do a short monthly test, because you'll be able to clear it out too. What will happen though is, remember, when you send this out, it goes across every map in the region. So you're going to have to be real cognizant of that we're getting 26 of them a month, which is fine if as long as all the PSAPs agree to that. But I would suggest that you do it, and then you have the ability to clear it out immediately. You don't have to wait for the operator to clear it out on their own screen. You have the capability to stop it. So you see it, verify it, and then you can stop it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jim? All right, so can I have a motion to approve the updated policies to include NINA call answering standards and the policies on use of the RMAP broadcast feature?
Loretta from Glendale first.
Loretta from Glendale, do I have a second?
Brittany from Peoria, I'll second.
Thank you, Brittany from Peoria. Any other discussion? Ag staff, would you please take a roll call vote?
Yes. Apache Junction PD,
Aye.
Avondale PD, Lydia, Buckeye PD,
Aye.
Chandler PD,
Aye.
Fort McDowell, Gilbert PD,
Aye.
Glendale PD,
Aye.
Goodyear PD,
Aye.
Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Mesa PD, Paradise Valley,
Aye.
Peoria PD,
Aye.
Phoenix PD, Ally,
Aye.
Salt River PD, Marcy,
Aye.
Scottsdale PD,
Aye.
Surprise PD,
Aye.
Tempe PD,
Aye.
Tolleson PD, and Wickenburg PD.
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have all the votes in, and it appears that we have a majority.
Very good. The next item on the agenda is a discussion on the Entrado Viper 7911 call taking platform issues PSAPs are experiencing. Was Jim Stillwell able to join us? I know that this was his requested agenda item.
He hasn't been on the roll call, and he hasn't on the vote, so I'm not sure if Viper, he's on the line. Nobody from MCSO has voted, so.
Okay, so this was information and discussion only. The one thing that I'll add on this is the status update is Viper 7 agencies. Our next step on this was to come together. We've had some great discussions with some of the stakeholders or the some decision makers within Entrado. They've been very responsive, and we're going to have a meeting. We sent out a Survey Monkey. If you are one of those Viper 7 agencies, I'm missing one Survey Monkey response, and silly me did not put names on that Survey Monkey. So if you are that agency, I don't know who you are, but I would love to hear from you. So we're trying to schedule that meeting so we can come together with MR911 and Entrado and start having some meetings. So we're going to try and kind of compare where we're at and any issues that are outstanding, and see what we can do to come up with some solutions to any of those outstanding issues. So that's where we're at on that one. Any questions on that?
Yes, this is Karen from Scottsdale. As an agency that has not done the upgrade yet, I think I'd be interested as you guys move along to know what it is that we should be looking for.
So I can speak for Chandler. I have one ticket open at this point, and so I feel like I can safely say right now, today, August 12th at 11:02 a.m., I feel like I can say we're at a stable point right now. I think the things that have been helpful to getting us to a stable point have been biweekly meetings with Intrado and with Corey. I will say it has been a bumpy road. The product has been bumpy for sure. And we've gone through several patches. And what we've done is we've kept our own tickets. We've compared them to MR911's tickets. And then we met with Intrado on a biweekly basis, and they have their own matrix that they keep. And so one of the things that we've discussed is taking that model and expanding it to the Viper 7 agencies to see if that would be something that we can work through, because in talking to Corey, one of the things that they've tried to troubleshoot is a symptom that we're seeing. Is it related across agencies? The root of the problem is we're seeing a symptom, but is the root of the problem related at different agencies or something like that? So that was one thing that we're talking about, is if we all come together. So one of the things that has been resolved in my agency, can we put our brains together, and maybe in Jim's agency, help resolve it in his agency as well. So I could just speak for mine. We just have the one ticket. I don't know where the other agencies are.
So you have Paradise Valley, is it Mesa Fire, Goodyear, Surprise?
This is Nicole at Mesa Fire. I would agree basically with what Michelle just said. We're stable over here. I think our biggest frustration was in the very beginning when they started doing it. Intrado would say it's an MR911 issue. MR911 would say it's an Intrado issue. It was kind of the biggest thing was getting on the same page. But like she said, currently as today, we're not having any major issues or anything with it. It's stable and we're happy with it.
This is Dell with Tempe. Are there any other agencies out there that have gone to anything else at this point besides Viper 7? And what's the feedback on those?
I'm sorry, Dale, can you say that again? Who is it you're looking for?
So with the upgrade, I'm hearing feedback from agencies that are doing the Viper 7 upgrade, but is there anyone that has any other of the vendors that have done any upgrades yet? And what's their feedback on that?
So those will be the ones that we're doing this year. Is Phoenix Fire will cut next week on Vesta, and then Glendale will cut a few months later on Vesta, and they will be our litmus test on the new Vesta platform.
Okay.
Not next week, but coming up.
Did I say next week, next month? Sorry. Nate, don't stop crying. Sorry.
Thank you.
And this is Mike Benjamin also. And if I can address the comment that Intrado would say that there was an issue with Maricopa region, I can assure you through every element of the fixes that have been applied to correct what's going on with Viper 7, there was never one element that was the responsibility of Maricopa Region 911. Every fix for every failure has come from software engineering out of Intrado. They have no, it upsets me that they would point to the integrator that's working really hard with them to work through their issues. We have not had one issue with our network or with our staff or the training of our staff. It is strictly items that they release. And unfortunately, it hasn't gotten better in our view of things as recently as just last week when we had attempted to apply another round of fixes. We had to suspend additional application of those fixes to other PSAPs because the fixes that they provided us ended up breaking other things that had not been part of, something broke that wasn't part of that fix. So it is still an ongoing challenge with them with Viper 7, without a doubt.
It has definitely been an upgrade like I've never seen before. And I think, you know, we've all been through some upgrades, and I know going into it, I know we all sat down and we said, you know, do we want, you know, the BlackBerry version of Viper for Chandler, or do we want, you know, the newest and greatest iOS version of Viper? And so I know we went into it knowing that it was a calculated risk going as early on. I mean, this was early adopter version, so we knew we were going to have some bumps, but this was definitely a lift. And so we recognized we were in for it. We definitely didn't know we were in for it this much. So we appreciate everybody's work, and we recognize the impact that it's had across the region on all the centers when the focus has been on Viper 7. So thank you, everybody, for your patience.
Hi, Jim Stillwell here. May I make a comment?
Welcome, Jim.
Well, I apologize. I had something urgent come up. I did make it in time, though, just barely. My comments are, we're now 5 months in. We have many serious problems that are still unresolved. I would rather not go into those problems in a public meeting, but I have spoken of those to both MR 911 staff and Intrado staff, and hopefully we're working through those. My biggest concerns and what I would like to see going forward is better transparency, both from MR 911 and the MAG region. Had I known 6 months ago what I know today, I would not have allowed this upgrade to go through. I don't feel the product is stable. I don't think it should have been put into a general release, and I don't feel that it should have been put into PSAPs at the level that it is at. I agree with the comment that was made that when speaking with Intrado at points, we were told, oh, well, that's an MR 911 issue, or they should have done this. And it seems like it's that back and forth, one person blaming the other person. I also feel that one of the things that could have made this a little easier would have been a testing environment prior to throwing all the equipment in and then turning it on. I understand that there's a space and monetary piece to that, but it has just been a really horrible time for my staff to try and make things work, and we have had some serious critical problems that has put a potential to put our citizens in jeopardy, and that's what scares me most, is that if somebody gets hurt, or the level of service we provide isn't as good as it could be, where's that liability lay?
So Jim, let me address something real quick. If you reached out to my office, I don't remember getting a request from you. We would have been happy to sit down with you and your boss and all the way up to the sheriff to talk about these concerns. I feel bad that you waited until the MAG meeting to bring this up, because it's our goal not to have you stew on it. If you have issues, you reach out to at least me, and then we can work together on it, because I don't recall getting an invitation to say, hey, we need to sit down and roll up our sleeves and talk about this. I can appreciate that it was rough on it. I think all of the PSAPs are that way. I know from experience it is not an easy thing. It is draining my resources to do all the Viper 7 issues that we deal with. And we told Intrado until it got approved, we would not be installing anymore. So we have stopped that, but I think it's important that not to let this eat at you until you're at this point, that you should have been reaching out to us much sooner, because we would have helped alleviate where we can, and we are. So we've established that Entrada will come down and let the Viper 7 PSAPs talk to them. That's where you'll get into the weeds, and we'll see, you know, where Michelle said and Nicole have one issue or two issues hanging out, but MCSO has a whole list of things they think are wrong with their Viper 7. So that's the kind of things we can vet out, especially if you ever want to meet with our group and Mike Benjamin and myself. That's what we're here for. So you don't have to wait for a quarterly PSAP managers meeting to voice your concerns.
And I apologize, Liz. I didn't reach out directly to you or Mike, but I had been in regular contact with Nate, especially early on in the month or so after our upgrade, and then with his team. And I think more so, my frustration is that Chandler had this system installed over 18 months ago, and they initially had a lot of problems. And that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think we as a region were talking enough about those problems. You know, I think that there was a lot of keeping things under wrap and under covers that should have been made available at least to the managers, so that they had a better understanding and were more informed as to what they were getting into.
I don't think I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, but we have our different opinions. But we've talked about the Viper 7 issues in the PSAP managers meeting. I know that Michelle Potts is quite vocal on what issues you're having. So, but we can vet that out more if you want and talk about. I don't want you to think that there was any sort of a cover up, but we'll be happy to talk about the issues in PSAP managers meeting that we're having with any of our systems, because none of them are without problems. Viper 7 has been the worst one as of yet. We normally just have the normal amount of problems, but Viper 7 has been unique, and it's been a struggle, and we can appreciate that, but we'll be happy to talk more about the projects as we go through, so that the PSAPs know this are the downfall of some of the product that we've been given.
Liz, can I add that I feel like we can't overlook that this also happened during 2020. And I think our attention was also deflected to a global pandemic. So I don't think we can overlook that our attention was bifurcated between our mission of keeping 911 up and keeping our personnel safe, and some pretty hefty things like continuity plans within the region and things like that. So, you know, and I don't know what point you came in, Jim, but we were also talking before I heard you come on the line about, you know, we knew that there was a risk involved going in when you're an early adopter. And so I apologize if it feels like I was, you know, maybe not screaming from the mountaintops, but when you're that early on, you know, we have a higher threshold for things when we're moving on early things like that. But then also we had the pandemic too. And so maybe things are not always in our traditional communication during those types of things, and we're not seeing each other, and then our focus is on other things. So I will personally apologize if it wasn't communicated out of our center because of those other things.
I believe that your agency, being an early adopter, is one of the reasons why, when you did state things at past meetings, that, you know, I think a lot of that might have been put onto the, oh, that's an early adopter, they'll get those bugs and they'll get those problems worked out before they have a wide release. And so I think that a lot of those were kind of brushed off by myself, as well as probably other people. And I think that that's the way things usually go, is that during those early releases, you do see a lot of those problems and bugs. And so, but I think that by the time, you know, here we are 18 months later, to me, my thought is that those problems should all be worked out. They shouldn't still be occurring in brand new installs.
And I'm going to agree with you
Jim.
on Jim as well. And Mike, go ahead and talk, but I wanted to let you know, I agree with that. They should be worked out.
Yeah, no difference of opinion here from the tech team that does the installations. A couple items. We've had a contingency, I don't know what you would call it. They call it a Class A inspection, where they sent, this is Intrado, sent a contingency of folks, some of them from out of the country, and from Canada, other parts of the country in the US, to inspect all of our Viper 7 sites to see if there's something systemically wrong with anything. The report from that was there was nothing for us to change. They documented the troubles that had been documented previously, and they continue to offer fixes. Every round of fixes that we've received from them, every round of fixes has come with just as many holes as what we were trying to fill in. And I want to make it clear, I fully understand that there's an impact to PSAPs. There's definitely an impact to our tech team. There's an impact to the relationships from vendor to support group to PSAPs. Everything is in flux with this, but we never suggested that they move forward with an install, because that's not our place to make that suggestion. We would have never let them move forward with an install if we felt that call handling, alley mapping, and so forth isn't working. So can you allow me to request, can you describe for us, you said you have many issues that are critical. Can you describe a couple, 2 or 3 of those for us? To help give other PSAPs on the call an idea of the criticality that you're talking about.
Sure. So I will try and attempt to be extremely vague. Again, I don't want to create any security issues because we are in a public meeting. We have critical issues with the ability to successfully transfer calls. We have issues with being able to properly release calls. We have issues with calls that are answering with when an agent's not in an answer state. Again, I'm trying not to be too detailed here.
No, and Jim, we appreciate that. But those are good examples, and we absolutely will address them. So I know that because you and I and Benj can address it today, and then you can go into more detail, and we'll compare it to the notes that we have of what's open, and then that adds to our list of things to talk to with Intrado. And I didn't know if you were on the call that we're pulling the 7 PSAPs that are on Viper 7 to have a one-on-one in-depth with Intrado themselves so they can hear the effects it's had on your PSAPs.
Yes, and I was on a call yesterday with Corey and staff from Intrado, and it was a positive meeting. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the things that were discussed in that meeting come to fruition.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the Arizona 911 office report. Do we have anyone from the state on the line today?
Hey, Michelle, this is Travis. My team is here on this call. Just to give a update of what things are looking like regarding the EZNet and CHE upgrade outside of Maricopa County. As we discussed on our quarterly meeting, we identified the Frontier region as one of the first regions we wanted to get up and running due to the outage and redundancy issues in that region. So we had a meeting with NextGen this morning, finalizing some components of the master project plan, and La Paz and Mojave counties are going to be moving forward with Vesta through Motorola Direct, and Navajo and Apache counties are going to be moving forward with the Solacom call handling service. I anticipate that is probably what it's going to look like for the rest of the regions outside of Maricopa County, those two options. Obviously, we just had the conversation about Viper, so everybody has their opinions about that. But that is more than likely what will happen with the regions outside of Maricopa County. So I just wanted to give a brief update. We're moving forward with that. We anticipate them being live Q1 of 2022. And we're working on that over the next couple of months. I know there was some contentious conversations regarding rapid deploy, and it was brought to our attention that there was some concerns that we might have access to sensitive data, specifically Annie and Allie records. And I just wanted to clear up some maybe miscommunication. We did have a meeting with rapid deploy. We do not have access to any Annie, Allie record information from any PSAP in the state. So just wanted to communicate that to everybody here. Like I said, I know there were some conversations about that. So hopefully that assists with that issue. And then the last thing that we'd like to discuss is Gerald has been in communication with a lot of you regarding some data analytics components and some information that he's trying to get from everybody to make sure that the rapid deploy data is as accurate as possible. If you could just please do your due diligence in trying to assist him with that and get him any data that he requests, we would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, we don't have anything else unless anybody has any questions for us.
Hi, Travis. I got a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
There's been a question on funded and unfunded positions in the region, and we reviewed that earlier under our budget. And so the only unfunded positions that we have at this point are the backup sites, the Salt River, Phoenix Fire, Luke Air Force Base, and it's not a backup site, but the MCSO has some from adult probations. So is it that the state has told us, and in the grant application, they've told us, no, they don't fund backup sites. But are you considering funding backup sites now?
We have not had that conversation. I don't believe that was something we anticipated doing, no.
Okay.
But that is good to know that there's no active seats that aren't being funded at this time by the state. That was a goal that we had for the entire state, but specifically for the Maricopa region. So that's positive.
So there was also discussion on in this current fiscal year, the state approved Gilbert to get 3 positions that they had asked for, and the state approved, there were 6 positions requested by Mesa, and you only approved 3 of those. But what was the formula that the state, because that's what we're grappling with, is how do you quantify when a new position is needed? What did the state use on those two requests that they approved them?
So there was some conversations that were had internally as well as with the system administrators regarding what the need of the region was. And I can reach out to you and we can readdress that conversation that we had months before, and we can give some insight into how those decisions were made.
Okay, but so what we're struggling with, our governance group is trying to come up with a formula based by the size, the 911 volume, on how we can quantify that. So we thought perhaps that since you had approved some of those, there was something that you were using.
Yeah, so we actually reached out to Christine and Karen regarding what that looked like for the region. They were including the administrative calls, which is something that we didn't want to include. They didn't seem to have a definitive answer when I reached out to them months prior as to what formula you guys were going to use to add additional seats. So I would like to reintroduce that conversation to see if we can come to an algorithm as to based on how many 911 calls you have, how many seats a PSAP would need. So that is something that we've been working on. We're going to continue to work on. But the first step is we need accurate data to see what kind of call volume everybody is taking. So that's the first step that we're trying to move towards. And we're hoping to have that completed before this next budget cycle. And then we are going to create an algorithm as to how many seats a PSAP would need based on 911 call volume.
Oh, and I appreciate you saying that. And if you need data now, we have it through our MIS. So until we are able to iron through the stuff with Rapid Deploy, if you're wanting any specific MIS reports to help in your decision making as well, the PSAPs that are requesting positions would be happy to.
Yeah, and so that was part of that data that Gerald was trying to collect. If any PSAP managers are on this call that haven't been communicating with him, if you can please try to respond to him as quick as possible. That is one of the reasons why we're asking for that data. And then specifically, if it is one of those PSAPs that have identified asking for those additional seats, we don't want to arbitrarily make those decisions. We want there to be data behind the why as to whether or not a PSAP needs additional seats or not.
Travis, so I don't think I've heard from Gerald, although he might have reached out to Stephanie. And then that's my first thing. My second thing was I haven't been monitoring to see who all was on this call the whole time. Were you on the call earlier when we were talking about the budget requests?
We walked in right at the end, so I apologize, but if there was something you could enlighten us on, I can try to address any questions.
Yeah, so when we were talking, so what Liz is referring to is we were talking about the approved positions and the formula with that. And so one of the things that we were talking about is it would be nice to see all of the centers kind of side by side, because what we're looking at is from a 6-year request, looking forward type of view, the requests that have been put in and what that looks like long term. We have some agencies that'll end up, with 15, 20, 25 consoles or something like that. And they may have half the call volume. I'm making numbers up right now, but just, for the sake of what we're talking about. And then, so maybe putting these side by side of call volume, 911 volume, total call volume, how many radio positions, because these are some of the justifications that we're using at this point in time. And then how many radio channels that we're working because they're doing dual call volume. And, but putting these side by side, because I think relative to one another, what we've justified this year and the requests that are moving forward or that have been requested in the future, the ratios are maybe a little disparate across the region. So I think the future conversations, I think it's going to be interesting to see the comparisons.
Yeah, so sorry, this last year, when we were having those conversations with Christine, and I think it was Karen, but I don't remember completely. We actually did create a complete document that shows side by side how many calls each PSAP is taking and how many seats they have, and created an algorithm. Unbeknownst to us at the time, the call volume was inaccurate. So we found that out right in the middle of going through that process, and it was right before the budget cycle needed to complete. So we didn't have that document to go by. I can actually share that document with you if you'd like. But I think that's going to be a strong point for us to justify additional seats in a console or in a PSAP. We did not have any radio information in there, so that is something that we can definitely look into doing. But yeah, it's definitely on our list. But like I said, the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we have accurate data on call volume in those PSAPs and the amount of seats. There were some emails that also Jared was sending asking about the amount of seats because Rapid Deploy, for whatever reason, had a different number than what we had regarding seats in the state. So we're just trying to clean up that data. And then once we do, get back to work on that algorithm to approve some of those additional seats for the state.
Travis, this is Karen. I'd like to just speak to a couple of things too. So we do have some sort of a formula that we have come up with. Need it to really go before the managers here at MR 911 before it's used and get their feedback. And I talked about that a little bit earlier before you got into the meeting. But I do have a question about one of the things that you said, and that is, you know, you're really focused on 911 data, which of course I understand that because you're the 911 state office. But at the same time, the non-emergency calls do factor into how many positions are needed. And there's not, most of it comes straight into our 911 equipment. And we have to have folks available to answer that. So how do we justify, we can't really get rid of our administrative calls because often they are the source of emergency calls into our 911 center, the same as the 911 calls are.
Yeah, Karen, you make a really excellent point there. You know, nothing is set in stone. Everything is, you know, open to discussion, and we've tried to be really transparent with everybody. I would like, if possible, to maybe have another meeting with you and Christine once you guys finalize that algorithm and get it approved with the rest of MAG here. And then maybe we can have that conversation as to how we can use that data and that algorithm to make those decisions for us.
Thanks. Looking forward to that.
Okay, great.
And then, Travis, we also talked earlier today, we were talking about just functionality. I know that you and there was a whole team that put a lot of work into the 2 RFPs. And then I know we had some good conversation at NINA. And I just, you know, being the curious person that I am, it was, gave me some homework to do when I came back. But is there going to be any, and I might get the names wrong, between azmag, core services, all that fancy technical stuff, is there going to be any difference in the functionality and the tools and the toys that we're going to be able to leverage between the two? So Maricopa Regional, Haviland, Liz, correct me, what am I talking about? Is it azmag or is it the core services? Tell me what I'm talking about. Is there going to be a difference in functionality that we can leverage between Maricopa regions and the states?
So I think I'm understanding your question, but let me, so you just want to make sure that there's no difference, that the service that would be outside of Maricopa region would be the same as the service inside Maricopa region?
Correct.
The ability of the call handling equipment and all of that. Michael Benjamin is incredibly more technically savvy than I am, but the way that I understand it, there would not be a difference.
Okay.
Is that an accurate statement?
We expect no difference. What there will be is different equipment operating it. We were very interested during the RFP process to have as much redundancy, as much in-state or in-region processing as possible. We can't get around the demographics. There's the majority of the population and the majority of 911 calls occur in our region, and we wanted to make sure that that was recognized in the RFP, and it was. And the vendor that was selected was willing to, I don't want to say duplicate necessarily, but provide a solution that would have services that are appropriate for what they have going on in the state at large, and provide services specific, if you will, as far as the processing and where those processors are and where that compute and networking occurs. So we feel like since it is a single vendor solution, we don't have 2 different providers that are providing something for the state and then another provider providing for us in region. It's the same provider. So as far as the partnering, it's the same group. So we believe, as far as functionality, parity, and everything else there, that we will be in good shape there. I have a few more comments. I'll let Travis go back to his pitch. I have a few more comments in my section coming up, my report.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Did you have anything else, Travis?
We did not. Thank you all for your time.
All right. So that was for information and discussion only. We'll move on to the Maricopa Region Technical Update System Upgrade Projects. Mike Benjamin and his team will provide us with a report.
Okay, I'll try to go through this quickly. I know the meeting's kind of getting long here. We talked about it a little bit earlier, active projects. We have 2 current active VESTA projects, a deployment to update in place, if you will, the Phoenix Fire Department dual site VESTA installation. So they'll be going from an older version to a newer version with new hardware. And Glendale Police has chosen VESTA as their product. These are large sites, ACD sites, and those projects right now are in flight with Liz mentioning, yeah, we're at the weeks to months type time frame for Phoenix Fire, and then Glendale not too long after that. Looking ahead into this next fiscal year that has started, projects that will be on tap for sites, Fort McDowell, AMR, Rural Metro, Tempe Police, and Scottsdale Police. Demos are ongoing. There's been some demos this week. There's another demo today. So product that's being demoed is Viper, Vesta, and Guardian. Guardian may sound new to some of you folks that maybe haven't been to APCO or NENA recently. They're not a new player, but they're new to our region in that they are now an awarded vendor on state contracts. So their product is available on state contract. It's from a company called Solacom, which is a subsidiary of Comtech. So Solacom Guardian may become a product that you may see demoed or possibly see some PSAPs adopting. Jumping over to Next Generation Core Services, the state RFP for Next Generation Core Services has been awarded. That award went to Comtech, using a different name based on some partnering that they're doing, but underneath it is Comtech that is really the lead on that. We've been working with them, and we don't have timelines yet as far as finalized timelines as to when we'll be moving forward, getting deeper into core services. But we do, as I mentioned in my previous pitch about Next Gen Core Services, we expect this to be a little easier to be partnering because the selected vendor is working in our region as well as at the state at large, and they also are now able to sell call handling equipment to PSAPs. So we expect there to be those good those synergies or those benefits of working with one vendor. We are familiar with Comtech, of course, text to 911. Our current selective routers that we operate are from Solacom Comtech, and we've had connections for alley services with Comtech that go back to the middle of the first decade of 2000. So most of the alley that you get from wireless providers actually goes through Comtech. Those are existing relationships that we have with them now. So we don't have a stressed relationship with them as things stand now. We believe that they're a good platform going forward, and we're looking forward to those steps coming up. We are down a couple of our resources. Nate was promoted internally to a higher level position within our group. So we have a senior level position available that will backfill the position that Nate vacated. And we have 2 other positions available. So we are trying to bring resources up to stay on top of everything that we've got going on. And if you have any issues in your PSAPs, technical, communicative, as far as what our group is communicating with you, please, by all means, reach out to Nate, reach out to myself, reach out to Liz. We don't want to have you feeling like you're not getting transparency from us. We want to make sure that you understand everything that we understand about an issue, and we are willing to lay it all on the table. That's the end of my report, unless there are any questions or comments for me. none, I'll turn the table back over. Thank you.
Can we hear from Dave Eaton?
Sorry, whipped through that. Dave Eaton, you have a report. I apologize.
Certainly. So for the last actually month, because I've run into some issues with rebuilding the overall base map, but hopefully by Monday we'll be updating the entire base map. I get regular updates from PSAPs on addresses that need to be fixed within your regions, and those will all be included. So that's the core features. Chandler has been testing out some new functionality as far as we added ADOT cameras as well as ADOT incidents that they track. So that is a tab that's available to toggle those features on and off. And in addition to the ADOT data, I was finally able to integrate the Waze incident data into the map as well. So there's Waze incidents, Waze hazards, which are typically, you know, like a car off the side of the road or something along those lines, or a pothole, and as well as Waze construction features. Each one of those features can be toggled on or off. Michelle, do you have any feedback on those features?
Our supervisor team is testing that. So as soon as we have some sensitive feedback, we'll bring it back to the script.
Okay. All right. So those are the primary changes to the map, and some of the broadcast functionality was mentioned earlier. The way that it's just a brief overview, it's set up at Chandler only at the supervisor's position, and it will just strictly be a separate URL when we do roll that out to the PSAP. So it's not necessarily on a personnel basis, it's on a position basis, and strictly by the URL that's being launched. So as we move forward, keep that in mind. We can basically define it by position for that broadcast functionality. That is, there was one other item, telematics. I had noticed in working with the map that there was a telematics call that had gone to basically 00, which is out in the middle of the ocean, which should not happen. And as I looked into it a little bit further, it appeared that Toyota telematics calls were not passing accurate lat long information with their calls. I have addressed this with Entrado, and it's at the bare minimum, it's a statewide issue. I'm not entirely sure if it's a more broad issue than the state, but I just received a call from Entrado this morning that says they're working on a fix. Toyota, the actual data coming from Toyota does have accurate lat long information. They're just not flagging the information correctly for it to be included in our alley data, and that's on Entrado and Toyota's side of the fence. So I'm not sure if anybody had noticed that issue. I had just noticed it while observing the map. So hopefully that issue will be addressed, because obviously there's not a lot of Toyota calls that come through. However, the Toyota telematics calls that do come through don't have any location information with them, which is a bit concerning. That is all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Thank you for those updates, Dave. I know Waze has been an ongoing project, I think, for the last 3 years or so. So we really appreciate that. And, if there's no other questions, that item is for information discussion. Next agenda item is
Michelle, I hate to interrupt you, we can barely hear you.
that better? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you now, Verizon.
Okay. Next item is future agenda items. Any requests by the membership for an item on a future agenda? All right.
Michelle?
Yes.
Do you want to put on the agenda to walk through that formula?
Liz, does that qualify for PSAT managers?
Oh, absolutely. We can have a presentation on the formula by the governance group. That's what you're wanting, Karen?
Yeah, I think that it would be nice if we could just display it and kind of talk about how we came up with it, and, you know, rather than just shipping it out as is, because it is so cumbersome that I really feel like it needs to be a discussion.
So do we want to discuss it and vote on it, or do we just want to discuss it and mull it over?
I think maybe there might need to be some mulling time.
Okay, so we'll just do it as a presentation.
Thanks.
Any other future agenda items?
Loretta?
Loretta or Karen, did you guys want to chat about the interop channels and the future meetings that are coming with that?
Sure, I can do that. We had some conversation amongst some of the managers, mostly those of us who are constantly in the fight for the interop channels that are available in the region, and thought that it might be good, especially knowing that we've got a Super Bowl coming in just over a year. We have a lot of events that happen around here, and then you add in any civil unrest or different things that are happening on the fly or with sort of short notice. And we wanted to do some updates just so that each manager could kind of talk about, hey, I think this might be coming in my area, or there's buzz about this, and kind of get the rest of us to know what might be happening. We thought we might be able to move that into some conversations about agencies. If we know that there's a lot of civil unrest, say around the entire valley, and we know that we don't have enough interop channels for everybody to just get on and grab them and try to beat each other like we did a year or so ago, that we might do better if we looked at agencies that are more likely to have problems and those that are less likely to have problems, and maybe team them up a little bit so that everybody who is most likely to need it would be able to get a channel. And then the agencies that we don't expect the problems in, if something crops up, they have kind of a buddy agency to reach out to right away to release a channel.
And you sent out a meeting notice on that, right?
I did, and it starts the 23rd. Next week, some of us will be in APCO, so we wanted to hold it off until past then. Right now, I'm looking, though, for a better platform. Right now, I've got it sent out on my calendar, which sort of means that I need to be available every Monday, and I can already see a couple of trainings coming up in my department that might require me to not be able to set these up. So if there's another idea for a platform to grab it in case, so that we don't have just one person that has to be available every Monday, that would be great.
Okay, we'll think on that.
Sorry about that, Karen. I kind of unplugged.
That's no problem unless you have something to add.
No, you covered everything. I'll look for another platform as well, just in case, since I'll be trying to be available as well on those meetings.
Okay, you know, I don't know if there's, I know we've been starting to do more things through Google Docs and things like that. I don't know if there's anywhere that you can grab a room and then it wouldn't matter which one of us opened the meeting and you wouldn't be counting on somebody not having an emergency.
I can check to see what's available for us on that. We don't use Google Docs a lot, but I know we do it for GCC. So let me see what I can do on that.
Thanks.
Okay, if there's nothing else, the meeting is now adjourned. The next meeting, the MAG PSAT Managers Group, will be on November 4th, 2021. So thank you all for attending today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.